everybody, welcome to the channel. We're having a little bit of a throwback video here where we're going to talk about the Nikon D500. I had it for 2 years, from about 2018 to 2020. And to be quite honest, the only reason why I moved on from the D500, I went to a Z7 II, was for the video capabilities of the new mirrorless camera lineup. And we're just going to talk about some of the things that I really enjoyed about the D500, with a ton of example photos from over the couple of years that I had it, with a lot of video examples that I used with it as well. And if you want a good representation of how big the D500 is, you put a grip on it. I used it with a grip basically all the time. It is pretty much about the same size as like a Z9, you know, with the built-in grip. It's pretty much the same size. And what was really cool about the D500 is you could use EL15 batteries in the camera, one in the camera, one in the grip, so you had 2 batteries. Or you could use the AAA battery tray to put in the grip, so you could use AAAs in a pinch. Or you could get an EL18D battery, and that would give you about 3,000 milliamp hours of juice. So you could get a ton of video and photo out of that camera. And the main thing that I really liked about it is there was a button you had to push that you had to rotate the dial, so you couldn't accidentally rotate the dial. And it was always fun to load that battery tray, because it was almost like loading a gun. It just felt good in the hands. Nice big heavy duty body. You could shoot vertical with it with a grip if you really wanted to. It just felt like a tank. And now with that camera coming up on 10 years old here, I figured it'd be a nice little thing to put some time towards showing it off to people. And you can get it on like eBay or camera used stores for about $800, $900 for a pretty good condition one. So with that being said, let's jump into the video and show you some different examples and opinions from owning the camera. So we're just going to run through and read through the basic specifications for the D500, and then we'll go into talk about specific situations where I've used it. The camera with the battery and SD cards and CF Express card in is 760 grams. The launch price was $2,000 for the body only. The weight with a battery and card was 1.9 pounds, 860 grams. It was offered with a battery grip with it as well, and I really liked that grip because it went on the bottom of the camera and screwed in. It didn't have a little segment that stuck up inside of the camera body. It was 2 separate pieces, so you could have a battery in the camera and a battery in the grip. As for connectivity, you had Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, HDMI out, which was the Mini C, a step below the full size, but not a micro, which was pretty nice. And you had analog stereo in and out, which you could use for headphones and a microphone. And the video features was actually pretty decent for a 2016 Nikon camera. It shot 4K up to 30p, and you could also do 1080p up to 60, but it was an H.264 MPEG. And what a lot of people remember about it is it had a really good autofocus system in it. It shared the same chipset as the D5 and the D850, which gave it 153 autofocus points and 99 cross autofocus points. And then at f8 you also had 15 autofocus points to use as well whenever you used teleconverters on lenses. The rear LCD was touchscreen. It was 3.2 inch, pretty normal, 2.36 million dots. It's pretty much kind of the same screen you'd get now on a lot of mirrorless cameras. It was a pentaprism viewfinder on it with 100% viewfinder coverage. And then the card slots had 2 card slots. One was an XQD, which has since been upgraded with a firmware update to shoot CF Express cards, so you just get faster offloading speeds to your computer, and you're still stuck with 200 frame maximum burst, which, I mean, it's still 20 seconds of constant shooting before you hit the limited buffer. The second card slot is an SD card slot, and that was a UHS 2 compatible SD slot, which is kind of funny because some of the higher end cameras now that are, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 are still not giving the UHS 2 compatible SD card slots. As mentioned, you have 10 frames per second. Shutter durability was rated to 200,000 actuations, which since the camera came out, a lot of people have like doubled and tripled that. And you get a shutter speed of 1/8,000th of a second, which is pretty nice if you're shooting wide aperture lenses like f2 or faster during the day. And then you can go out to 30 seconds with the internal counter, and you have bulb mode. And then you can also use the port in the front of the camera, and then that gives you the ability to put a intervalometer on the camera, which I had one from Amazon. I think it was like 40 bucks, and it worked pretty good. Then you have your basic ISO range of 100 to 51,000. Which most people are going to be shooting this camera under 10,000, but at 10,000 ISO with a little bit of noise correction and editing, you can still get some pretty pleasing photos out of it. And it is a 20.9 megapixel sensor, so a lot of people just call it 21, and it is a crop sensor. So if this is a wildlife camera you're after, this is going to be the bee's knees. And I see a lot of these cameras going for like $800 to $900 used now. If you're looking for a wildlife camera that's extremely rugged, built like a brick house and you don't have to worry about it, and you want reliable autofocus, it has 3D tracking, dynamic, and auto area. It works really good. I always used dynamic or 3D tracking on mine. Obviously it's a DSLR, so you're not going to have subject detection like you would on the higher end Nikon mirrorless cameras. But if you just want to stick to photo and not shoot video, and you like the bigger, bulkier, more rugged feeling cameras like the D500 over say the Z52, and then you can also go to look up a Nikon 200 to 500 5.6 super telephoto zoom lens. You can get those used for a decent price too. So for about $1,700 you can have a very effective wildlife kit. And the USB on the camera is USB 3.0 speed, but I would just buy an SD or a CF Express card reader, and it would be way faster than just downloading off the camera body itself. Some of the other things I really did enjoy about the D500 is the top LCD screen, is so you can see your exposure in your camera settings without holding it up to your eye to look through the viewfinder or tilting the back screen so you could see. You can just hold it at waist level, kind of like a waist level viewfinder camera, and see everything you needed. Just for a couple examples of video from the camera, these are shots from the D500 of mine. Now these are downloaded off YouTube from older clips from a couple of years ago, so the quality is not as high as it really could be. But don't let it confuse you to think that the D500 video quality isn't lacking. It is still really nice quality for a 2016 DSLR shooting 4K video. And as you can see from the quality of this bee buzzing around inside this these flowers here, it still gives you pretty sharp quality video, along with the monarch caterpillar. And this is where that extra zoom from the 2.25x video really helps you out, as this is across a river, probably 600 yards. And this is at 600 millimeters with a 2.25x crop, so you're at like 1300 millimeters. But at that point, you're kind of, at the will of and mercy of the atmospheric conditions that you're shooting in. If it's nice atmospheric conditions, it's not super humid or bad air quality, you're gonna get some pretty good images out of it. And just going down memory lane here, it's kind of funny that some of my first YouTube videos were shot on the D500. And I was just using a shotgun mic with the camera probably 30 feet away because of the heavy crop. A lot of my first videos were on that, so I have a lot of good memories using that DSLR camera. It's kind of like the first camera that I owned, where I kind of had the feeling that I had a good opportunity to get a lot of really good shots using it without worrying about the gear letting me down. One of the negatives that you have to remember is whenever you're shooting 4K video, it is going to be in a crop mode equivalent, so it is going to be 2.25x crop. So if you're shooting on like a 50 millimeter lens, you're going to be looking at about 125 millimeter equivalent at that 4K 30. Which, if you're doing wildlife, really not a big deal. More reach is always better. And if you're using a 200 to 500, you can always zoom back a little bit. There's a couple scenes here where I was using the D500 in 4K, using that crop mode on a 70 to 200 Nikon VR2, and it was 200 millimeters. It was giving me the equivalent of like 400, 2.8, which was pretty nice for video. But one thing you have to remember is it's still a DSLR. It's shooting with the mirror locked up, and it's using contrast detect. So your autofocus is not what I would call reliable at really anything. So a lot of the focusing is going to be manual. The one camera that this D500 is usually associated with and compared to is going to be the Canon 7D Mark II, and that is a 20 megapixel camera versus the 21, and really the only semi-strength the Canon has over this is that it has a built-in pop-up flash, as the 7D Mark II can only shoot about 30 raw photos in a row. So not exactly the best wildlife camera between the two, and it only has a buffer continuous shooting of 3 seconds. Although the 7D2 does have built-in GPS, so it'll mark the locations of all the pictures you take. Now on the D500 and a lot of more modern mirrorless cameras, you can link it to your phone app, the SnapBridge app, and it will transfer the GPS data from your phone over Bluetooth to the camera and mark it, but it's SnapBridge, and that's generally considered a not that reliable of a connection for GPS. For a more modern comparison, we'll consider the D500 versus the Z50 Mark II that came out a few months ago. And really, the only main thing that the Z52 has over the D500 is the different autofocus algorithms. It has the Xpeed 7 chip in it, so it shares all the autofocus types as like a Z8 or Z9. Obviously, it's not going to be as efficient as those, but you'll still have animal, bird, subject detect, aircraft detect, those kinds of things. But the D500 doesn't really need those to work pretty well. And personally, I would think the D500 is built a little bit more rugged than the Z50 series. But the Z50 will also shoot 4K 60 log profile video in 422 10-bit. So if you're looking for a hybrid camera to do photo and video, you're kind of only stuck towards the Z50 Mark II. Another bonus for the D500, if you're comparing it to more modern mirrorless cameras in its price range of like $800 to $900, is it's going to have zero lag in the viewfinder, and you're only going to have blackout whenever it takes a picture, and the blackout is honestly pretty small. It's not really going to affect a whole lot. Keep you from tracking something fast moving like aircraft or birds skimming the water. The durability of the D500 was bar none. I had that thing through swamps, rain, snow, all different types of weather, environments, humidity, down in Florida, Pennsylvania, just all over the place, and it just never gave me any problems. And I felt like every time I was done shooting, it just asked for more. It just worked so good. And I really enjoyed using the D500 at automotive racing events, like these super bikes, and it tracked so well, and using the lens VR image stabilization, I was able to get some really nice panning shots on a lot of the bikes. And even the video worked okay for some of these tractor pull events. This was on a 24-70 Tamron G2 at 2.8, probably at 24 millimeters with that heavy crop. Another cool thing you can do with the camera is you can set it out, take pictures, and it will stitch together time lapses for you in the camera. So here at the end, we'll just play through a minute or two of my favorite photos that I was able to dig up from 2018 to 2019, 2020, and just to show you all the capabilities of this camera. It really did bring a lot of fun memories from going through these and just remembering the scenes and how it worked out in different events. So if you like the video, please drop me a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, hit the bell notification so you can see more of my stuff when it gets published, and I'll see you out there.
Get up on your feet, this is a shakedown. Order up that beat just like it's takeout. Show me you got soul inside those new shoes, and you can rock and roll with an attitude. So good, so fresh, just the way you like it. You're the new MC, you got the remix. Keep it on repeat, just let the beat kick. Everywhere you go, you bring the roof down. Everybody knows you got your own sound.